Get started. Can I check if am I audible? Am I audible? Not. Am I audible? Still. Okay. Oh, now it's working. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, colleagues. Good afternoon. Welcome to this very impromptu press briefing that is being hosted by the African National Congress on the margins of the conference of the African National Congress Women's League. And we have just gotten out of the session that was addressed by the Secretary General as part of the program of conference. So this is merely an update by the SG on the goings on at the conference and what the outlook is over to you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Mahlengi. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, we have just delivered a message of support and opening address to the Women's League Conference, which started last night. The President of the African National Congress, Comrade Mata Ramaphosa, is located attending to chamber check, and other officials have got different commitments, but nonetheless will make their turn as and when time permits before the end of the conference. We have deployed a very strong delegation to this conference of the Women's League, like we did with the Youth League, which is led by Comrade Duzi Manana, the head of ANC organizing, and deputized by Comrade Penima Jodina, who's our chief whip in parliament, and the provincial secretaries and chairpersons also are deployed to the conference. We have dedicated our address in the opening to Sisbalega Mbete Kostile, the veteran of the ANC, who steered the ship to this point in terms of convening this conference. As you all know, that Sisbalega have retired and declined standing even for the NEC. So we dedicated our speech largely to recognize her contribution to our struggle and also a dedication to our movement. And we want to thank her for all what she does for the ANC and continues to do in a space. And we expressed our love to her as a movement, as an ANC, and we welcome her wisdom as she joins the ranks of those who are our veterans and stalwarts of our movement. The conference has begun. It followed with a gender equality perspective by Comrade Fikile, and we welcome all the positive messages of goodwill amidst a conference that looked like it will be contested in terms of leadership. Of course, we welcome that as well, as long as it is done within the discipline of the African National Congress. There's nothing wrong if comrades do not agree on leadership, but we emphasize the need for persuasion. We took an advantage to brief comrades on a number of issues internal and external, but our message is that we are not a movement, and the ANC in that movement leading it as a vanguard that has not delivered to our people. As the narrative goes that the ANC is useless, the ANC misrule, ANC not governing well. We have a different story to that, and we will account for 120 commitments we have made to our people. Our story tells us that 70 of those commitments have been met, and we're going strong on others. We do have challenges in terms of our economy, but our economy as we speak is on the recovery. We have registered 0.4 growth in terms of the gross domestic product. And then the Reserve Bank have also took a decision in terms of the repo rate and not to increase or anything. We appreciate the fact that the Reserve Bank have pointed to the things that need to be done for us to improve going forward, which is load shedding, and then which is also logistics and freight, which must be addressed, which is hampering the economy in terms of growth and so on. We believe that Transnet and the Department of Public Enterprises must move faster in the implementation, working with Transport Department in terms of the policy of moving goods from road to rail. It's very important because that is the policy of the African National Congress. We now have a rail policy in the country which enable the Department of Public Enterprises and Transport to move speedily, especially public enterprises in terms of Transnet, to increase the capacity of the state to actually deliver on this particular resolution. It's very important. We need to intensify our struggle, especially women, in relation to GBV. In the country, the Women's League must be at the center of women's struggles in our country. The Women's League must support women leaders in the academia, in business, and everywhere else. As the statistics of this country tell us that we are 60 million people, and 30 plus people in that 60 are women. So it's important that the Women's League must be at the center of the women's struggles and not just be preoccupied with internal fights and also sustaining the agenda of men in the ANC. So they need to stand on their own. But the most important thing, as I conclude, we came to tell the Women's League we have now arrived with all the imperfections and challenges we have encountered along the way. We have now arrived at the conference, and the Women's League must take charge of the affairs of the women, not only of the ANC, but women in general, and champion their cause going forward as an integral part of the African National Congress. So if you do have questions from what we said or didn't say, you are free to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, SG. May I invite, I have got Sidi over here.
There's a project that says we are in the
Thank you, Tidi. Do you wish to take on any further questions? As I said, it's essentially an update. Do we have any questions? Just milk it for what it's worth.
Last year you introduced the issue of the electoral committees that would give updates on the ballots and those who've met and threshold from the branches. I'm not sure if I've missed it, but has that happened with this conference? It happened with the UP conference a few weeks ago, and we don't know how the branches of the Women's League have nominated, from what I understand. What's the hold up? Is the electoral committee going to address this? Thank you.
Thank you
very much. Zianda Tolo from Newsroom Africa. Something that's been noted, I think as well by ourselves as journalists, is the fact that in the build-up to this conference, there wasn't even briefings about discussion documents. In fact, you can have uploaded policy documents, but I'm still searching for the discussion documents of this conference. Does this not concern you as the Secretary General? I know it's just one league, but as I've been saying, this conference has started off on a rather flat note, and I think you've also reflected that during your address in plenary, talking about the issues out of divisions and interference, but really policy. You say it's an important organization. What are the discussions? Where are those discussion documents, SG? Thanks.
Thank you very much, SG.
Thank you for the questions. Let me make this point very clear. Sisbalega was referring to coalitions in relation to what is happening now in the country, post-local government elections. And she quoted extensively the ANC document on the coalitions. And the point that the media, I think you are not getting it right, simply because you really want us to get to a point where we say next year is a year of coalitions, and who are we looking at in terms of partnership? So I want to distinguish between the two. First, coalitions in the country in terms of local government, we produce a document which has been adopted, are very much unstable, and they are very much unprincipled. One example we can make is that smaller political parties lead big municipalities in terms of mayorship and so on. We have then said that, look, let's look at the law in relation to that, so that you institutionalize the question of who then leads in terms of a stalemate where we then have got to have coalitions. Shouldn't the party with the bigger number be the ones that is given an opportunity to form a government? Now, if I can go with that proposition to political parties, as the ANC, they are going to say no. That's why Deputy President Paul Mashatile is leading a process in government to say that how do we deal with this in terms of legislation? So that we institutionalize the question of how, in terms of local government, we then deal with the coalitions. And that is what we are dealing with. And with regard to next year election, the ANC will work very hard not to be in any coalition. We are not in talks with anyone about what can happen next year, because we are not just convinced, we are very clear that we will not be we will still govern this country through the mandate of the people, because the people are telling us so, and the people are not saying to us that the ANC should actually be out of power and govern with others. It will be tested in terms of the election next year. And we are restating and stating a clear position that we are working for ANC overwhelming majority in terms of next year. There is no consideration on our part about the coalitions going forward in terms of next year. There will be a lot of political parties, it looks like, and there is moonshot, whatever that it is, on the pipeline. We're looking at that. There's political parties flirting for each other, either in the moonshot or outside, that if we pull together our numbers, we can take the ANC out of power. From where we are seated, that is not possible. But nonetheless, we know us getting a majority is not a given. We've got to work for it. We've got to win the trust of the people, and that is it. So, Sidi, what I'm saying is that Sis Balega was referring to the coalitions as they obtain right now in the local municipalities and so on. And if not, she's entitled to her own view, which is a political report that will be debated by the Women's League. From the side of the ANC, it's not a question of cancel. It's a question of saying that we're not heading that direction. We're heading to the direction of overwhelming victory. So when I engaged with her, post that address, she was referring to, you can probe that matter further with her, but she was referring to the current status. That's what she said. The Women's League Conference nominations, that should have happened, announcing the nominations. I think the media people can advise you if that would happen now. We are already at conference. So nominations after credentials will kick in, and then the Electoral Commission will take over. So I think they will brief you. But Sis Nandi Mayatula is heading the Women's League electoral processes. So she will come brief you before or after. But we're already at conference. So the fact that it happened with the Youth League and the ANC and it didn't happen with the Women's League, it can only be a question of time and time management alone. Because we are organizing these conferences, big as they are, within a limited period of time. Normally a conference of this nature must take place over 5 days. We don't have resources. Next week we are running the Veterans League. Down the line we are running SAMCO. Last of last week it was the Youth League. So these conferences are not cheap, so to say, and we're running them back to back in a very short space of time. But nonetheless, we are happy about the progress we're making in getting the structures of the organization ready to meet the deadline of July. We have said for ourselves that no structure of the ANC must be preoccupied about conferences post-July. News Africa, newsroom, discussion documents. There are discussion documents. The steering committee is dealing with the question of how to process the discussions. But from where we are seated, anything that will eat in terms of time of this conference is going to be those discussions. And tomorrow late in the evening, people will be preparing to depart, to go back home. So the conference will work over time, guided by the steering committee, and they will decide how to deal with the discussions. But there are discussion documents. We just had a discussion document presented in plenary on gender equality by Comrade Fikile. You may want to say that it's an elective, it's just an election conference. Yes, let me tell you it is, because the Women's League does not have leadership. It it was disbanded. So the leadership that will be elected will then deal with processing issues, including this conference. Will process issues and oversee those issues, either in a hybrid form or whatever way that they can actually deal with it. So I'm just raising it to say to you, if the outcome at the end of the day in the main becomes elections, it's reflective of an organization that we're bringing back to life and that will now have leadership to champion, process and engage on women issues in the country. Of course, they will have that opportunity to further debate their issues. So I wish to pause there.
Thank you, SG. I'll take SAPC over here.
Good afternoon, SG, spokesperson, Zodibet from the SAPC. My question is related to the events of yesterday. You recall there was supposedly a court challenge to prevent President Putin from coming, but of course by mutual agreement the court case didn't proceed. However, that warrant of arrest was issued by government, and kind of like government making a commitment that if President Putin sets his foot here, he will be arrested. So given the nature of the relations that South Africa has with Russia, as a party, the governing party, I am not worried that that kind of commitment, of course I know we have to abide by the rule of law, but in the face of trying to strengthen the relations with Russia and South Africa from the governing party's point of view, so is that not going to perhaps damage the relations between the two countries? Pretty much.
Thank you, Sidi.
Thank you, Ms. Mateng. Just a quick follow-up. Fikile, the ANC set a bad precedent for instructors. So the ANC in December called to complete its conference. We saw protective delays on day one, issues around registration. We saw the same thing with the Youth League. We are seeing the exact same thing with the Women's League. The worst thing now, it's just a week ago we were told we are postponing the conference by another week because we don't want to see the kind of delays we saw with the others. Yet here we are where we're speaking about the issue of time. This conference, like the others, will not be complete by tomorrow. They have to extend it at a hybrid and so on and so forth. Does the ANC take responsibility for setting a bad example for its structures?
Thank you very much, Sidi. With that, I assume that we are done. I don't see new hands. Let's try and give an indication to speak so that we don't have too many brainwaves as I'm about to close. This will be the last hand over there.
All right, thank you. Apologies, I just got in. My name is Mulu. I just want to...
From where?
Please identify yourself in the media house.
Mulu from ANC.
Thank you.
Thanks. I just want to hear from you. We were told that there were two PTT members from Northwest who yesterday fought. It was physical, senior leaders, over this whole issue about delegates. Can you just go? I have their names, but I would rather not mention them at this platform. But are you aware of that physical fight among your leaders from Northwest?
Yes, Chief.
First, SABC, there is nothing really untoward about the warrant of arrest. We just come from a dialogue. We met with the United Party of Russia, which is the party of President Putin, and they perfectly understand the position of the South African government and the ANC, that we would have wanted the president to come here. Once the warrant of arrest has been issued, it then meant something to this country. As a signatory to Rome statutes and the warrant of arrest issued by ICC. Of course, ICC will expect us, if anyone whom they have issued a warrant of arrest against come to this country, South Africa must act. You know, we have been explaining that President Bashir came here, it was a big issue, and then the NGOs went to court and government lost. And President Bashir had already left. So there was no way that South Africa was going to overlook that. And we kept on saying to you, allow the government, through the president, handling the matter. At an appropriate time, they will issue a statement and they will report to the nation. The president have done that. The president have engaged with the Russian Federation. The president have told us that there's a lot of things that they did to actually try to get President Putin here, and then all of those then failed. And then they then embarked on alternative measures, which will be through satellite, and at the same time representation through the foreign minister from Russia to come here. So all of those things show a government that is responsible, a government that knows what it is doing. Governments are not led on populism. Anyone can make a political statement, whatever thing that they can, but governments are not led through populist statements. They are led factually, responsible, got the interest of the country, and then don't make South Africa look like a banana republic. So President Ramaphosa and the government which we support as the ANC have demonstrated that. Now, anyone who goes to court and make populist statements about this and that and claim easy victories, it's not a concern for us. Government has got to do what it is right. And we've seen the letter being circulated about a warrant of arrest, a letter written to Batoi. From a point of law execution, if you are required to respond to the warrant of arrest, that's how governments act. Because South Africa is a country that does not only subscribe, but is actually embracing fully the rule of law. And that is what is important. Our Russian friends understand that quite perfectly. This week we'll have the Africa-Russia summit in Moscow. We are also going, the DSG of the ANC is going to that. There will be political parties engagement alongside. Our president is going to Moscow this week. Sorry?
St. Petersburg.
Yeah, St. Petersburg. Yeah. Okusalayo in Moscow is Russia, and St. Petersburg is Russia. Yeah, exactly. So our president is going there, but thank you for the correction. Our president is going there, so Russia understand where we come from on these matters. On the issue of conferences, you must pick up a very good trend in the ANC conferences, starting with the Western Cape. Lawlessness, rowdiness, anarchy, ungovernability is evaporating, is going away. People are civil, they contest, but they understand that we're in the era of renewal. Should anyone act otherwise, we're taking steps on a daily basis to clear anarchy, rowdiness, rebel arousing in the organization. We're really intolerant to that. It's no longer something we do just by way of verbosity, you know. We keep repeating ourselves about it. We act. You are found on the wrong side, the organization will respond. So, yes, we do have these challenges, which I can assure you that it will be something of the past. The issues of registration and all of that, it will be something of the past. We are dealing with that from the point of capacity issues and so on at Lutulia House. It will be something of the past, and you will see that for yourself. But our conferences, from a point of view of being orderly, you know, you are a journalist, you've been around. Under normal circumstances, people will be going naked with coffins and all of that. You know, it's getting out of our way. Yes, we do have incidences that were reported. They have been now taken up by the disciplinary committee at the registration center. There are people there who were doing things and all of that, but security and everybody brought it under control. But there is already a disciplinary case against those people who were perpetrating those acts of violence there, attacking each other and so on. Because those things can't happen in the ANC, where comrades attack each other to the point like they are enemies. It can't happen. Differing about leadership or any other matter can lead to a comrade attacking one another. We're setting, you will be correct then, Tiki, we're setting a bad example to the nation as a whole. Violent organization does not respect itself just because of a few elements. So disciplinary action, I've been assured that the disciplinary committee is dealing with that matter, and including the Northwest issues. We don't want conferences that start late, don't start on time, people wait on queues. This Women's League conference and the Youth League and the ANC conference have been really tiring. So we have to manage our things well and deal with the issues of administration appropriately. But we are really encouraged by the behavior of delegates, which we expressed in the full view of everybody. That you can sing about people, but insults and anarchy all around, we don't want that in the organization. And should that arise, including in this conference, like it has happened with the registration, we are taking steps. Those people will be brought to book. There's no point of return on the issues of anarchy and discipline in the ANC. Not now, not in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, SG. With that said, we now come to the end of this press briefing. Thank you very much, members of the media.